On this episode of Wtphu, we talk about something about my parents, we talk about secrets and opinions. Hello everyone, my name is Wtphu and welcome back to another brand new episode of Wtphu. We're going to talk about questions and you're going to learn about me so we can then learn about you and just have a conversation. How are you guys doing today? I feel like I've been getting better since my medication has started last Wednesday. It's been getting a lot better. We have Korean barbecue going on later today, so I think that's fun. But otherwise, I was able to experience a day of Emerald City Comic Con, but then I got injured. my right ankle got tender from just compensating, but that was also because I incorrectly measured the lengths of like those arm handles, those hand handles on the crutches. So it's a little between the one and the other. So that's what's happened. So unfortunately, that's what's happened. But yeah, but otherwise, at the current moment, I feel better now than where I was, and I'm planning on getting better. I'm planning on getting some help. I have an appointment on Tuesday, and then we're gonna see what we have to do in terms of like PT or any, because my primary doctor wants to see how I'm doing. So I wasn't confident that I'd be in a healthy position for tomorrow's appointment. So we made a Tuesday appointment to give me like a leeway of like, oh, what if you don't feel well? Then ta-da, we have an extra day of like, you get a chance to reschedule the appointment. So that's it. But yeah, let's get into the questions today. We're here on the podcast for the questions. And again, if you want to ask me questions, ask me on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, just in any of my videos, ask me a question and I'll answer it. And I will try to link it at the end of the video in the descriptions, or on where you listen to your podcasts, whether on YouTube, Spotify, or Anchor, right? Awesome. So the first question is, what is something that you like that your parents do? I've lived with my parents for like a number of years, as many people do. I sometimes have an estranged relationship with my mom and my dad. I relate to my dad more than my mom, and my mom has been a bit distant. But I think when it comes to my mom, for as much as I dislike it, I do enjoy that my mom. It's almost funny. For better or for worse, sometimes it's she's oblivious to things. Like, she's oblivious to how things work on vacation. So she would sometimes make those experiences a bit funny, for what it's worth. I liked that she had a really good, strong work ethic, despite my mom was really huge on overtime. Sometimes she's out for like almost all the entire day. Sometimes she's out for the appropriate amount of time, and then she just goes to her room. But I do remember she did, at least I liked that she instilled a certain amount of work ethic. I do that work ethic as well now in comparison. But also, I have seen, she has shown me what kind of how dangerous things can get when it comes to work. Definitely working overtime a lot does tend to put a strain in the relationship with your family and everything, and your friends. So if anything else, I learned I'm learning to make decisions that would make me happy. Like, if I feel happy, if at the end of the overtime or whatever, I feel happy because of what it does for the family, or who I get to interact with, sure, great. But if I'm having a poor time with management during that day, or nothing's working between me and my coworkers for what we're doing, it's pretty healthy to just leave, because like other than working your 8 hours, it's not your responsibility to maintain as much as you feel obligated based on duties. Other than working your 8 hours, it's not your obligation to help the corporation if the management or the co-workers don't put out as much as you do, if that makes sense. Because it's another entire thing of where you shouldn't overwork yourself for those that don't work on your level, if anything else. Like say for example, I sometimes work 9-10 hours, but that's because there are people that I am fond of at work that happens to like work later than me. So I work at 9. Some people start at 10. Some start at 11. And maybe I just feel like I want to stay for the long haul because they're staying there at their times. So yeah, if anything else, a nice motivation for me to work overtime is because if my coworker gets off at 6:30, cool, I'll hang out to 6:30. I'll hang out helping out at 6:30 because they leave at 6:30. Or if my coworker leaves at 7:30 and we just happen to like communicate enough that day, I'll stay with them for the long haul, for the long ride. But I do enjoy that my friends are like, hey Tyler, you look tired, go home. They tell me to go home for my own sake, and that's good. I love it. From my dad, I feel like I really there's a lot of things that he laughs a certain way, I think. So like I that's what I caught myself doing from my dad. But actually what I really enjoy doing from my dad is he is throughout of all the times that we do vacations together, and of all the times that we are out together as a family, my dad has a huge thing about making sure we have family photos at everywhere we go. I remember our recent the last trip we went together as a family was definitely touring around New York, around the northeast. So we went from New York to Jersey to Canada and stuff like that. And he was and like even before that, we went to Paris, Germany, and he made it his mission to make sure we had family photos at like several nice locations. He made sure that we had photos of the places we visit, so we have things to remember. And I do enjoy that. I enjoy his effort to make sure we had photos everywhere. I am doing the last vacation I went from myself was actually going to I think I haven't actually gone out of state recently, actually. Wow. So, but otherwise, I did go to Portland before the pandemic, and I wish we actually had more family photos. That's what I need to write down. I need to do more family photos, friend photos, family photos, but I need to do more of those when we go out. I missed the opportunity for pictures at Comic-Con because I was injured, sure. But for the people that I met up, I wish I took pictures so that we had a thing to talk about and memories to uphold. Because if anything else, my dad taught me that like things are going by quickly, especially during the pandemic, and it'd be good to have pictures to hold and to like look back onto. I definitely do have a situation with a vacation that's coming up next month, and so I'm excited to take pictures with my dad and with Joanna when we get there. So I'm really excited to do that. Do you have any secret hobbies? Well, we have to rephrase this question because there's really no. As long as we are on the internet and we have the willingness to share, there's nothing that's really secret that we do anymore. I generally have the hobbies of listening to podcasts or audiobooks while I'm working or driving, just because I enjoy conversation. And a lot of the times, most of the audiobooks are either lectures, like philosophize this, or there's another show. Philosophize. This is a very good like lecture based thing that I listen to a lot. I've been listening to a lot of Gary Vee and Distractables a lot because both of those podcasts are in conversation form, and there's a lot of storytelling to it, which I really enjoy. That it feels there's like a bit of like camaraderie amongst everyone, so that's all good. And when it comes to audiobooks, I nowadays we don't have time to sit down to read a book, but it saves us time if we had someone that like just read the books for us. There's now appearing on Spotify audiobooks of things that I missed reading when I was a kid. I may want to listen to a book about that again, so I'm happy that I can listen to it. Otherwise, I can go to audiobook.com. I can go to audiobook, and then I can try to find a book that's I want to listen to and just listen through that. There's books I want to read, but I don't have the physical time to do it. So audiobooks allow me to catch up on book reading and things that I could have done if it was 5 years ago. But nowadays we're just so busy to where we're just going left and right with meetings. We're going left and right with events, meeting with people. I would love to listen to an audiobook while going from one appointment to the other, because in that time of driving, I'm technically doing nothing other than focusing on the road. Being able to multitask with listening to an audiobook, retaining it, and then driving at the same time, that's a money saver. Much like how Uber, Lyft, like all those like apps, the delivery service, like either they deliver you from one place to the other, or they deliver you food or groceries. That sells you time. It sells you the time to do other things that you are more passionate about. So it's really cool. Like listening to, that's what I like listening to. What's your, and let's reach into tipping a little bit to round out the podcast. What is your opinion on tipping? Tipping is a lesson I've been before moving in with my roommates here in where I'm at now, I used to not do tipping only because at the time I felt like I didn't have enough cash to do so, and so I always felt like I didn't need to tip. I didn't need to tip because I was under the impression that my parents didn't do it, so that meant I didn't need to, because that's where you learn your first lessons. When you're growing up, your first lessons come from your parents. The first lessons you get is from your so people that you live around with, and the people that you associate with. If they didn't do tipping, if they didn't normalize tipping when you were younger, you wouldn't think to do it either. And so that's the problem. And since working in food services, and since being around a different group to associate with, I now tip. I now tip like sometimes minimum of like 15-20% depending on what I'm purchasing. However, like if I go to like a Korean barbecue, or there are some services that will force a tip based on the party size. Normally I'm against it. However, there's a good hot pot place called Shaburina in the Redmond Bellevue area. I can definitely for that situation I have no problems with tipping because of the service they provide. They provide high quality service, and the owners and the owner did a really good job with their team in terms of customer service. They make you feel at home. This is a non-spot. I'm saying this from my own experience, and I really enjoyed what they've done for us. So in in specific situations, if the locale is a very good established place that I can go back to time and time again, great. I don't mind tipping. I don't mind tipping despite whether or not they enforce the whether or not they enforce tipping when it comes to the 4+ people or 6+ people. If it's a good restaurant, great. I'll tip. I like tipping at cafes. I like tipping at like mom and pop restaurants. I have a minute problem tipping in chain restaurants. By the way, how's it going? OP, how are you doing today? We are recording a Wtphu podcast for the podcast on Anchor and Spotify. This normally it's a video first podcast. However, I think moving forward, I'm going to be launching the podcast video along with the audio on the same day. That's the plan moving forward for the podcast. But yeah, I think that's my opinion on tipping when it comes to things that I go to. So if I go to a cafe, I'll tip. If I go to an Olive Garden, maybe. Olive Garden tipping, it's a problem to, like, if I tip at an Olive Garden or at a chain teriyaki restaurant, the biggest issue for me is the fact that it goes into a tipping pool, is my understanding. So I really enjoy tipping if it services the associate that you help the most. So for example, if I went to Olive Garden, I can't do the automatic tipping. I need cash to tip because I want the person who provided the service to get the tip, not the pool. I don't know if they just do it anyways and just spread it across the team, but that's how it is when it comes to tipping. But otherwise, if I go to like a mom and pop shop, like if it's local, I like tipping higher, like 20%. If it's an automated option, 15. But definitely if you can't, but please, I do recommend to avoid tipping if it hurts you financially to tip more than you can pay. Please don't tip. It's huge to, it's one thing to make sure that you tip to help the business because you like it, you like to make sure it stays there. I've seen businesses to where they disappear and you can't be sure it's because of bad business or just not enough money coming through. So there's definitely a huge context that you have to play with on your own when it comes to tipping at a restaurant or a mom and pop shop. And yeah, but that is the end of the recording. That's the end of the recording for the Wtphu podcast. For those of you who are listening first on the stream, thank you OP for joining. For those of you who are watching on Spotify, listening on Spotify and Anchor, at Wtphu, it's spelled WTQ. So if you look it up on Spotify, Anchor, YouTube, there is my show. And leave a comment if you want to ask me any questions for the foreseeable episodes. And as always, I'm Tyler, I'm your friend, and I'll see you next time. Bye.